This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
Let's wrap it up. But before we do, I want to mention he's honored by WCW in a Legends ceremony at the Slamboree show in 1993. Oh, I do want to ask this. They briefly, I guess around late 92, they tried to position as almost like a father figure for Shane Douglas. Do you know what the plan was there or the story was there with that idea?
Well, obviously, at the end of the day, it's to give Shane a rub.
Right.
Uh, Other than that, I don't know. I don't recall much about it. But again, Magnum's influence was prized and honored and recognized. And at that time, there was those in the country that had high expectations for Shane Douglas, the babyface. Good looking, educated kid. He needed a little something to help him get along on down the road. And the thought was maybe Magnum can help facilitate that.
Coming up next week, we're going to be talking all things King of the Ring 1996. But before we get there, we've got some fan questions. Let's rapid fire some of these, Jim.
Okay.
Hornets Beard Guy wants to know, what do you think of Magnum's WWF run and what could it have looked like? Do you think Magnum had potential to be a WWF champion if the accident had never happened? We sort of talked about this earlier, Jim, but I think the big question is, would it have happened as long as Hogan was there? I mean, is it conceivable that instead of Hogan passing the torch to the Ultimate Warrior in 1990, it's Magnum TA? That's tough for me to envision.
Well, because the Warrior Hogan thing was so historic. But I'm just going to say this: I don't know how it would have gone down, how the booking would have been reconfigured, 40 years ago, whatever it's been. Magnum TA would have gone to WWF, Conrad.
Yes.
Magnum TA would have been the WWF champion at some point, Conrad, and he would be in the WWE Hall of Fame today if all those things had occurred. That's my take on it. It's just, again, that cruelty of the time and incidents and all those things are what they are. But there's no way Vince McMahon, as smart as he is and always has been, would allow a talent with a potential upside of Terry Allen to not work for Vince. Just don't see it.
It's also worth mentioning he's so young. Dudley brings up a great point. He says Magnum would have still been in his 30s when the NWO started and the Attitude Era kicked off. Where do you think he would have fit in? I mean, he would have been right at the top, right, with Brett.
Well, yeah, I don't understand what this. What do you think his fit in shit is? What do people think? He's a top guy, for God's sakes. He's a star.
Right.
You can't manufacture them. You can't go pluck them out of trees or dig them from the ground and harvest them. He's a top guy that comes along once in a generation, if that. So he would have fit in anywhere they did pro wrestling. That had a goddamn brain bigger than the Black Eyed Pea. Promise you, he was that big. And a lot of people now are asking these questions because they unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever your perspective, weren't around in his heyday. Just go back and research it. There's plenty of footage. Peacock's got stuff. I guess I'm sure YouTube's got stuff. There's all kinds of Magnum TA things out there. But yeah, man, he was that good. He just was that good. He just had a short run,
right,
that a lot of people missed, because of their age and so forth.
Last one, and this is an interesting one. Mike wants to know, would a Magnum TA run on top for Jim Crockett potentially altered the trajectory of that company? Or do you still think, successful or not, the company would have ran into the same financial issues?
Well, if the accounting didn't change wholeheartedly and how they did their books, nothing's going to, it ain't going to matter. Magnum getting over or not, they might have more money to blow. But until the deficiencies and the infrastructure was corrected, you're still going to run into those issues. But let's not confuse this whole issue here, too, either, Conrad. Terry Allen was not going to be the savior. It wasn't a one-man problem in Crockett.
Right.
And to think that one man's success is going to trump the incumbent king of the jungle in WWF, we're wrong. The WWF is still going to be the king of the jungle. And because what you do is you go out, you see this guy that's helping keep these other boys alive on life support because he's the only thing they got that's really over. What you do, you go buy him. You write checks. Well, I have character. I have no, fuck, you're a wrestler. Horse shit. You want a payday. Well, I love the game. You know, I've always wanted to be a wrestler. As a little kid, I had a little army man and I had him fight. First action figure. It's great. You want the money. And that's what Magnum would have said at the end of the day. Wife, family, his future. What do? You die on your sword and say, I'm too big a company man and I'm not going to deviate from my beliefs? Or do you take the largest contract anybody's ever floated in front of you, sign the contract, and start putting lots of money in the bank? I think we all know the answer to that.
Well, we're going to have some questions and some answers next week on King of the Ring 1996. And Jim, in the meantime, I think I'm going to go fire up the grill, whip out some of my new shipment from jrsbbq.com, and we're going to have some supper around these parts.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you get a notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at savewithconrad.com.